Okay, thank you so much. Thank you to the previous speakers and to all of you in the audience and to those who are joining us online. So I noticed when going through the agenda that I'm the only speaker today who does not have a title of doctor or professor. So just a disclaimer, maybe my presentation will be less academic than all the other ones. And another disclaimer before I start is that although I speak today on behalf of ISD, Institute for Strategic Dialogue, where I currently work, some research in my presentation is also based on the work of other organizations. So it's not fully based on ISD research, although there is a lot that is based on ISD research. So I'd like to talk about this aspect of Russia's warfare that complements its conventional warfare, and this is information warfare. And very often a discussion about Russian information warfare, Russian propaganda, Russian disinformation is focused on narratives, whereas today I would like to focus on some specific tactics and methods that Russia uses to conduct these operations and how we can recognize them. So briefly, I'll just talk about the structure of this presentation. So brief introduction, what is happening now. Then I will talk about three Russian information operations that are probably the most prominent ones that researchers identified. And these are Operation Doppelganger, Operation Overload, also known as Matryoshka, and Operation Pravda, also known as Portal Combat. And then I will also note briefly how Russia is trying to discredit the whole concept of fact-checking or fighting against disinformation by launching its own so-called anti-disinformation or fact-checking initiatives. So let's start with the Operation Doppelganger. A quick overview. This is something that has been, this is the operation that has been noticed by researchers as launched by Russia since the start of full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. So it was active since May 2022, and based on a lot of evidence and a lot of leaks that researchers and journalists and also government officials examined, it has been established that it is tied to the Russian state, in particular by the Agency of Social Design, also known as SDA, an entity that has been sanctioned in various countries, and I will talk about that a little later. Also another Russian government control agency, Struktura, and another one also known as ANO Dialogue. So these are three main institutions that basically link to the Russian state and that are used in conducting large-scale disinformation campaigns, and they are connected to the deputy head of Russian presidential administration, Sergei Kiriyenko. So the main features of Operation Doppelganger, maybe some of you have heard about it. So it started as this production of a lot of clone websites of that were mimicking or spoofing, that's a specialized term, known media outlets such as Bild, Guardian, and a lot of other mostly Western media outlets. So a page would be created, the domain name would be slightly different from the original one. I'll show you an example very soon. And the goal would be basically to deceive the audience, to lure people to the pages of this to these websites that are impersonating legitimate media organizations, so that they trust the content that is published there. So the main features of this campaign: the creation of clone websites and social media pages of known media outlets. Then there were links shared in comments on social media by a network of bots leading to these spoofed websites. And this Operation Doppelganger, in fact, has undergone certain evolution, because when this initial tactic was revealed and described by researchers, and the kind of audiences in various countries were warned that you have to always check the domain name to see whether it's really guardian.com or whether there is a little bit like a part that is added which does not match, you should be aware. So they change the approach, and basically what Russia has done in the framework of this information Operation Doppelganger, they've also created more than 300 news websites in different languages that were linked to another kind of Russian company known as RRN Media, and they also kind of resorted to different tactics such as coordinated posting of popular hashtags and video content on social media, so without links to external websites, but like immediately in the post where the receiving content was accompanied by some popular hashtags, or there was the content already there without linking to the websites. And the other feature is the paid advertisement on social media, again leading to those pages of these Russian-controlled websites. So as I said, the goal was to deceive audiences and to undermine trust in Western media and government, because also the government organizations' web pages were spoofed. The targets of this disinformation campaign were mostly Ukraine, because a lot of Ukrainian organizations' websites were also spoofed, and obviously the narratives were very much centered on Ukraine, but also EU, Germany, France, US, and other Western countries. So what has been done, and why researchers from Corrective, an organization that does research on this Russian info ops, concluded in November 2024 that Operation Doppelganger is not as effective anymore as it used to be, is that actually sanctions were introduced against social design agency, against Struktura, and against some named individuals, Russian nationals, who were involved in this campaign, first by the United States in March 2022, and then followed by the UK in October 2024, and then by the EU also in December 2024, after it was concluded also that the Operation Doppelganger interfered in the EU parliamentary elections, and there was some interference in the US domestic politics as well. So just an example how Operation Doppelganger looked at its early stage. So you see on top there is a real article on theguardian.com. And then you see at the bottom a page that looks very similar, that has the same author, but the real article was on the original page of The Guardian is replaced by an article, a fake article, questioning the Bucha massacre committed by Russian soldiers in the early stage of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And you see also that the spoofed website name is slightly different from the original name. So it's theguardian.co.com, and if you're not very attentive at paying attention and just like clicked on that link and just went and saw the logo of The Guardian and just saw the familiar layout, you might have been misled to believe that it is actually the original Guardian website, whereas obviously it wasn't. And that's just one example how this operation was initially conceived and how it developed. And then here are some examples of the evolution, and these are just some examples connected of French news websites, so-called French, in French language, but they are all connected to this Russian RRN campaign. So you see there are some news websites, but there are also some government websites like France in the EU. So again, spoofed websites, not original, not authentic, but that look very much like the authentic ones, but also like some news websites that pose as if they are local, as if they are based in France and like managed by French journalists, but in fact they are managed by actors connected to the Russian state as part of this Operation Doppelganger. Okay, next let's talk about Operation Overload Matryoshka, and this is something that actually ISD, my organization, has done some research on, and I'm going to mention it, and you can also check some articles on ISD website on that. So this is a relatively newer operation. It was identified by French state agency Vigilant, which does, again, like this counter-disinformation Russian info ops research, as active since August 2023. And again, it is led by the same entities that Operation Doppelganger, namely Social Design Agency and Struktura. The main features of Operation Overload that it operates mostly on social media. So there are no websites created or external resources. So basically, like it is being implemented on existing social media platforms. And what it does, again, there is an element of impersonation of the media, but also of academic institutions. And I think this is particularly relevant to mention here, the University of Oxford. I personally haven't yet spotted that the University of Oxford was impersonated by actors connected to Operation Overload, but some other UK universities were, and French universities as well. And actually, ISD has been trying to get in touch with representatives of academic institutions in France and in the UK to kind of flag that, so that they can kind of warn also the public that there is an effort to impersonate them and to discredit their reputation and some of even their researchers. Because what this operation also does, it uses real videos, either media reports or videos that have been posted even on like social media accounts of certain academics. So they would take the real video and then they would overlay it with an AI generated audio to attribute to individuals or to these media reports some comments or remarks that are hateful, that contain disinformation, or that contain some allegations that could be seen as racist or inciting, hatred. So that's why I believe that should be of concern for the organizations that are impersonated, because this operation makes their employees seem to be voicing some really controversial, to say the least, remarks. What these actors do, they are also tagging massively in their posts prominent organizations to increase their visibility. And also this operation is conducted in multiple languages, so not just in English, but also in Spanish, French, Japanese, Arabic, and some others. So here is an example, of one of this Operation Overload posts. So in this one, it impersonates a French law enforcement official. I blurred his face. And it also impersonates a media organization, Les Echos, and basically it attributes to this person, who is a real person, and this video is real. It is just overlaid with an AI-generated audio. It attributes to this person, to this officer, remarks about uncontrolled influx of Ukrainian refugees, and that they are allegedly preparing explosions, terrorist attacks, or attacks on the presidential election in Poland that just happened in May and June. So this was part of my research that I've done for ISD on how Russia tries to inflame negative sentiment towards Ukrainian refugees and migrants in Poland ahead of the elections, and it's an example from that research. And there were multiple posts like this, so this is not an isolated case. And this is a post from X, but whereas X is the main platform that this type of content is posted on, it is also appeared. We also noticed that it appeared on Blue Sky, although Blue Sky has been very cooperative and like taking down that content much faster than X. X also takes it down sometimes, not always. And there are indications that the platform is that this operation is now also shifting actually from Blue Sky to TikTok. Obviously, as a video platform, it's like it makes a lot of sense for them. And what's also interesting, kind of another indication of Russian connection, is that very often these videos, they first appear on Russian Telegram channels, pro-war Telegram channels, and then they, on the same day, a couple of hours later, they appear on X and other platforms translated into other languages. And I even analyzed the text of these translations, and sometimes you can really see that it's a literal translation from Russian, because I believe they are using automated translations. These are not humans who are doing that, but still, you can see that the translation is not perfect, and it uses the expressions that are very common and are more widely used in Russian than, say, in English. And a note of caution here that actually, whereas this campaign has a lot of these disturbing traits, so far we have not seen that it has been particularly impactful or influential, because this content mostly remains just confined, its amplification, to its so-called network of amplifiers, and these amplifiers are mostly bots. And so these videos are also shared by inauthentic accounts. So they are posted by inauthentic accounts, and then they are shared by another further network of inauthentic accounts, and these shares usually happen within 1 minute or 5 minutes, and which gives us researchers evidence to talk about coordination, that this is coordinated inauthentic behavior because they are shared by the same network very quickly after the original post appears. And usually they do not go out, they do not break out of this bubble of inauthentic accounts. So each of these posts usually has around 100,000 views and around 500 to 800 engagements. This includes likes and shares. However, the real risk is when a post like this, they get picked up by real people, by real accounts with large following, organic traction, and I will show you an example of that very quickly. So here are some more examples of media impersonation, because we've seen previously how they impersonate law enforcement agencies, and these are two posts where Operation Overload accounts, they impersonated BBC and Der Spiegel. On the second example, this is about the Polish elections and how Ukrainians are allegedly very unwelcome in Poland, whereas it is true that the negative sentiment in Poland towards Ukrainians has been rising. The figures that are provided here, that kind of this fake BBC report that they kind of try to impersonate, it says 70%, and this figure is like inexistent, like it's highly exaggerated. This is not true, and also you cannot see it on this on the screenshot, but like this video, it also contained a quote by a real by BBC journalist, or like a real person who works there, using his real video, and he was attributed again with the use of subtitles or AI generated audio, really negative remarks towards Ukrainians, like calling them pigs, like really kind of language that is quite extraordinary. And then the second example is like a parallel operation that I noticed that was unfolding together, at the same time, while the operation to kind of discredit Ukrainians in Poland. That was a series again of like tweets, content blaming Ukrainians for staging or for planning attacks on European politicians. So here it does not say in the text that Ukrainians were responsible for that. Again, like it's a completely like false piece of news. It does not exist. So it's like completely manufactured. But in the video, Ukrainians were explicitly mentioned, and that's it. It wasn't like the only allegations about like Orban or Hungary. It was also the same type of content was about Romanian politicians in Slovakia, politicians in Germany, that Ukrainian refugees, Ukrainians in Europe were planning terrorist attacks or assassinations of these high-ranking officials. And here is an example of the most viral so far piece of Operation Overload content. And this is a tweet that was shared by, you see, an account allegedly like looking like spreading memes, right, on February 5th. But then this tweet was picked up by really prominent individuals, like real people with large following on X, and one of them was Donald Trump Jr. And this Operation Overload video, you see, like it looks very similar. It again like impersonates a media organization, E-News. It has like this titles, like captions in it. So it kind of already contains some red flags. And this video was insinuating that the USAID was funding visits by celebrities to Ukraine. And after it has been shared by Donald Trump Jr. and some others, so he was not the only one, some other prominent individuals on X shared this content. And it actually, then it really managed to like break out outside of this like usual bubble of inorganic accounts, inauthentic accounts of amplifiers. Just this quote tweet by Donald Trump Jr., it gained, as of yesterday when I checked it last, 464,000 views and more than 6,000 engagements. And although there were like long, community notes under this tweet, from users, and then a lot of the celebrities that were mentioned in this piece, they also came out and they said, well, this is not what happened, we were not paid, like we paid it out of our own pocket, we went to Ukraine because it was for us a gesture of solidarity. This content still remains available on X, and that kind of tells you a lot about current policy of Elon Musk's platform towards content that is false and that has been proven to have the links actually to Russia-aligned information operations. The last one that I would like to mention today is Pravda Portal.com, but again, some of you might have heard about it. What is Pravda Network? So basically, it's a network of more than 100 websites in more than 50 languages. They are all administered by the company called TigerWeb, and this company is registered in the Russian-occupied Crimea, and that's the company that built websites for a so-called Russian-occupied government in Crimea. This Operation Pravda has been active since June 2023, and it has been expanding and continues to expand. Like in 2025, more websites were added to this network. And it is extremely prolific. So this network of websites published 3.6 million articles during 2024. So across this, more than 100 websites, 3.6 million articles. That's around 10,000 articles per day. And these articles are not original pieces of content. So they are all basically reposts from either Russian media, Telegram channels, or websites that are usually pro-Kremlin, but also they republish content from legitimate media outlets if that content is critical of Ukraine or critical of the West, so kind of something that plays along the narratives that they would like to share. Researchers were puzzled initially what's the purpose of this Pravda network is, because the organic traffic on their websites is so low. So there might be like 200 visits on the website during a day. So why would you invest so many resources? Although like it's clear that a lot of it is automated. So the translations are automated. You can deduct it from like very poor quality of those translations, and you will see it in the example very soon. So there were like a lot of questions. Why would they do it if nobody's actually reading this? Or, their Telegram channels or the social media of this Pravda websites in various languages, they also have like each just a couple of hundreds of followers. And like the question was like, why would they do it? Like, what's the real goal? And then some groups of researchers, in particular NewsGuard and American Sunlight Project, they came up with the hypothesis that actually the real goal of the Pravda network, it was not to reach the real people. It was not to kind of, cater to humans, but to groom large language models or LLMs. So what does that mean, grooming of LLMs? So the American Sunlight Project defines it as a malign intent to encourage generative AI or other software that relies on LLMs to be more likely to reproduce a certain narrative or worldview. So basically, in like simple terms, what does it mean? The goal is to saturate the online information space with such a huge quantity of pro-Kremlin content that LLMs will rely on this or refer or use them as sources when producing replies to the users of popular AI chatbots like ChatGPT and others. And another goal is also to appear in search engines. And we see that these goals have been partially achieved. So again, the NewsGuard study found the top 10 AI chatbots responses when asked in particular about Ukraine, they contained links to Pravda websites on the third of the occasion, so 33% of the time. And also links to Pravda network are coming up increasingly on Google search thanks to SEO optimization, and also on Wikipedia, and there have been some articles by DFR Lab, another group of researchers, about that if you'd like to check the primary sources. So here's an example of how Pravda network website looks, and you see like even kind of the titles of the first top news tell you that they do not really work on this like content to look, it's not perfect English. It's like the phrasing is really weird. It looks at if it's been literally translated from Russian, because they might start the headline "Na Zapadě" and then something, but usually like you won't see a headline like that in English. So it looks a bit dodgy, right? And also like a lot of repetition. That's also a very kind of important feature of Pravda networks. That these websites, if there is a piece of even like real news that they find is like really playing into Russia's hands, they would just publish that piece of news many times, linking to different sources. So, for example, when I was doing my research, in Poland and like Russia's efforts to discredit Ukrainians and Ukrainian refugees in Poland, I asked ChatGPT to give me statistics on crime levels of, crime rates of Ukrainians in Poland since 2022. So my query was absolutely neutral. It wasn't biased in any way. I asked ChatGPT for statistics. And then ChatGPT gave me a response, and then I asked, I just clicked to see what the sources of the responses were, and 8 articles were coming from the Pravda network. So there were some links to, Polish media, but the vast majority of sources that ChatGPT relied on in response to my query were leading to Pravda network. And what's even more remarkable, when I flagged it to ChatGPT and I said, Pravda network, do you know that Pravda network is connected, is aligned to the Russian state, and therefore the information coming from it might not be entirely reliable? It said, oh yes, you're right, blah blah blah. Would you like me to redo the search only based on legitimate sources, like on the official statistics or on the media? And I said yes. And then ChatGPT gave me Pravda as sources again. So I failed in my effort to persuade ChatGPT to completely give up on Pravda as a source, which was really remarkable. And it's just one example, because on another occasion when I was asking ChatGPT, and okay, it's not just like to just talk about ChatGPT, because other chatbots are doing this as well. It's just the only one that I use. And so when I asked it also to tell me about Ukraine's military presence in West Africa, again, I got a lot of links to Pravda, and I got a lot of links to even Russian state media that have been sanctioned by the EU and other countries such as RT and Sputnik. So please do use AI chatbots, but be very careful and check the sources. Okay, so and the last part, very briefly, of my presentation. So simultaneously with conducting this information operations, Russia is also trying to discredit the work of legitimate organizations that are doing fact-checking and are doing counter disinformation research. And I will just mention 2 initiatives. The first one is War on Fakes. So basically, it's a pro-Kremlin media brand that aims to discredit Ukraine and legitimize Russia's invasion using tropes associated with fact-checking practices. So it's a website that was active, particularly in 2022, 2023, and this content from this website was amplified by Russian officials, by Russian diplomatic network. At least 65 official Facebook and Twitter accounts of Russian diplomats were sharing so-called debunking or fact-checking from this website. And the source here is a Psychological Defense Research Institute, Lund University. It was me who done the calculations. And then the other more recent initiative is a so-called Global Fact-Checking Network. So again, something launched by the Russian state, Russian officials, again, the same institutions that I mentioned earlier, such as ANO Dialogue, which is basically propaganda branch of the Russian state. So they've held a conference in Russia late last year, and just recently in April 2025, the website became active, where they claim to publish debunking, and actually they even published an article saying that all this LLM grooming of AI that Russia does, it's not true. So they try to debunk this thing, although the arguments, I didn't find them entirely convincing. You can check for yourselves, but maybe not to generate additional traffic for them. Just take me at my word. And European EDMO, it slips my mind what's the European Digital Media Observatory, right? It defines this global fact-checking network as the part of the Kremlin efforts to use the media it controls to spread its propaganda, disguising its false narratives as fact-checking, but mimicking the form, but fundamentally contradicting the principles of independence and impartiality. So the people who are authors on this website are known for working for many years with, Russia, for being invited. They call themselves journalists or analysts or observers. But these individuals coming from various Western countries, but also from a lot of countries of so-called global South, they are known for, being involved in like a lot of kind of Russia's efforts to spread its narratives before. So some of them, for example, have gone on press tours organized by the Kremlin on occupied territories of Ukraine and made reports, say, from Mariupol, trying to describe, Russia's reconstruction effort there without mentioning actually the reasons why that reconstruction effort was needed. So that's just to give you an idea of the individuals who are involved in this Russian fact-checking. What's really kind of concerning here is that, as I said, not only Russia kind of continues to evolve its approach to information operations, to spreading this information. It's like constantly looking for different ways, like it launching new operations. It's increasingly using artificial intelligence to do that, but it also tries to discredit the work of researchers and institutions that actually flag what Russia is doing and who raise awareness about Russian disinformation by just like blurring and discrediting the whole concept of fact-checking and countering disinformation. So thank you so much. I'm open to your questions.